Hello everybody and welcome back to Historicalish. Finally, this is the Ancient Mysteries Volume 3, Episode 6. In this episode, I'll be covering the second half of the third tier. So without further ado, I know you've waited long enough, so let's jump right in. Number 11, UFOs in Classical Antiquity. Unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, have captured human imagination for centuries, and accounts of mysterious aerial phenomena date back to Classical Antiquity. Ancient texts from civilizations such as Greece, Rome, and other early cultures often describe strange occurrences in the sky, sparking debate among historians, scientists, and UFO enthusiasts about what these things actually were. These descriptions range from flaming shields to chariots of fire and have been interpreted in various ways over the millennia. So before jumping into any of the theories, obviously what makes the most sense is to dive into some key historical accounts that have occurred over the course of history. So the first one is Julius Obsequens and the other various Roman accounts from 218 BC to the 4th century AD. Julius Obsequens, a Roman writer from the 4th century AD, compiled numerous reports of unusual celestial phenomena from earlier Roman history. In 218 BC, multiple phantom ships were reported as appearing in the sky over Rome. In 214 BC, round shields or discs were seen in the sky. Again, in 100 BC, a bright light was observed in the sky at sunset, and these accounts often described objects with shapes resembling torches, shields, or discs. Then there's Plutarch and the Battle of Pharsalus in 48 BC. Plutarch was a Greek historian and described a mysterious phenomenon that occurred during the Battle of Pharsalus between Julius Caesar and Pompey. He reported that flaming shields were seen in the sky over the battlefield, interpreted by soldiers as a divine omen. Then there's Livy, a Roman historian, and he recorded several instances of spectacula celestia, or celestial spectacles, that defied conventional explanation. In one case, a naval battle was seen in the sky, and in another, an altar appeared in the sky, and this happened around 173 BC. Cicero also mentioned several accounts of celestial phenomena that were considered omens. He described two suns appearing in the sky and reports of a fireball traveling across the sky, which were seen as signs from the gods or divine warnings. And as with the rest of this series, it's kind of hard to leave out the Bible. It seems to be a commonplace in these lists. But the next one is Ezekiel's vision, which occurred roughly in the 6th century BC. In the Hebrew Bible, the prophet Ezekiel described a vision of wheels within wheels, and a great cloud with a raging fire engulfing itself. Some modern theorists suggest that this could be an ancient account of a UFO encounter, although religious interpretations consider it a vision of divine beings. So either way, I guess. So now into the theories and interpretations. And little side note, since I've been gone, I've kind of had some time to reflect and review some of the previous videos that I've done, and I want to kind of break it down into a more logical progression of ideas, with the first being kind of a background of ideas, the second being kind of some theories and interpretations, whether that's widely known or commonly accepted, and then moving more towards the wacky and more fun theories, I should say. Anyways, the theories and interpretations. So the first one are the natural explanations, which could be meteors and comets. Many historians suggest that ancient reports of flaming shields or torches in the sky could be descriptions of meteors or comets, common celestial events that would have appeared extraordinary to ancient observers. There's also auroras and atmospheric phenomena, which could be like the northern lights, and other rare atmospheric phenomena like ball lightning could account for some of these sightings. Atmospheric optical effects such as sundogs or halos could also have appeared as unusual objects to these ancient people. And there's also the astronomical bodies. Bright planets such as Venus or Jupiter often appear unusually bright in the night sky, and during certain conditions, their movements or reflections could be interpreted as celestial signs or flying objects. Now, even though all those things are probably what actually did happen, it is still super interesting to look at the cultural and religious context and what the ancients might have thought. Many ancient cultures viewed unexplained phenomena as divine omens. For example, the Romans and Greeks believed in these signs essentially being warnings from the gods or advising certain people to do certain things. Celestial anomalies were often interpreted within this framework, and descriptions might reflect religious or superstitious beliefs rather than objective observations. Ancient authors often used symbolic language to describe natural phenomena or political events. What modern readers interpret as UFOs could have been allegorical descriptions meant to convey divine favor or disfavor, rather than literal sightings. Some modern interpretations of ancient texts may be influenced by contemporary UFO theories. Scholars caution against reading too much into these ancient accounts, as the original context might be lost or misinterpreted. Also, over the centuries, translations of ancient texts can introduce errors or biases. Words describing celestial phenomena in ancient languages do not have direct modern equivalents, leading to potential misinterpretations. Okay, so now that we have all that out of the way, let's talk about more of the other theories. Some modern proponents of the ancient astronaut theory suggest that these accounts are exclusive evidence of extraterrestrial visitations. They argue that the descriptions of chariots of fire or flaming shields are the best approximations ancient people could make of advanced technology. Some other theorists speculate that ancient civilizations may have had advanced technologies now lost to history. This is something we have touched on thousands of times. But in this context, the flying shields or the celestial chariots could have been early attempts at flight or unknown machines. But regardless of what they actually were, it is super interesting to see that these accounts of UFOs in classical antiquity show that humans have always had a fascination by unexplained phenomena, especially in the sky. Number 12, Mysteries of the Yellow Emperor. The Yellow Emperor, also known as Huangdi, is a legendary figure in Chinese history and mythology. He is traditionally regarded as one of the 5 emperors and a founding figure in Chinese culture and civilization. His life, achievements, and the myths that surround him are pretty much a mystery, making him a central figure to Chinese lore. As a mythical emperor, his legacy is interwoven with historical events, spiritual beliefs, and technological advancements, blurring the lines between what is myth and what is reality. Huangdi is considered a great cultural hero who established many aspects of early Chinese society. He is credited with inventing or discovering important technologies and practices, including medicine, agriculture, the calendar, and even writing. According to tradition, the Yellow Emperor reigned from 2697 to 2597 BC, though these dates are not historically verified and belong more to the realm of myth. One of the most famous stories about the Yellow Emperor involves the Battle of Zulu, where he fought against the warlord Qiyu. Using innovative military tactics and inventions such as the south-pointing chariot, a non-magnetic directional device, Huangdi is said to have triumphed, unifying the tribes of China under his rule. Some more of his cultural feats: there is a pivotal text in Chinese medicine known as the Huangdi Neijing. This ancient book is attributed to Huangdi himself. The work, composed as a dialogue between the emperor and his ministers, provides a foundation for traditional Chinese medicine, outlining theories of yin-yang, the 5 elements, and even acupuncture. Whether Huangdi himself authored this text or it was attributed to him later to lend it credibility still remains a mystery. In Taoist tradition, Huangdi is believed to have sought the secrets of immortality. He is often associated with Taoist practices and even alchemy. According to some legends, the Yellow Emperor did not die, but ascended to heaven on the back of a dragon, symbolizing his divine status and immortality. So the main mystery here is whether or not he was a historical or mythological figure, or even a mix of both. While he is depicted as a historical ruler in many ancient Chinese texts, no archaeological evidence directly supports his existence. Many believe he is a composite of several leaders or a symbolic representation of Chinese unity and cultural genesis. So it is also important to look at everything that was attributed to him. The mass amounts of inventions and innovations might suggest that he was more of a symbolic figure rather than an actual inventor. His association with such advancements reflects the desire to root Chinese culture in a divine or semi-divine past, presenting China as a civilization of long-standing innovation. So if he was in fact a real emperor, he should have a tomb, which is why the location of his tomb has been a huge matter of intrigue. It is traditionally believed to be in the mountains on the Shaanxi province. However, despite the site's reverence, no concrete archaeological evidence confirms it as his actual burial site. Some legends claim his tomb contains untold treasures and advanced knowledge. So if he wasn't a real person, his mythological legacy is still extremely important. Huangdi's role in Taoist thought is significant, as he is often depicted as a proto-Taoist sage who mastered the secrets of alchemy and immortality. His supposed ascent into heaven on the dragon plays into most Taoist motifs of immortality and divine transcendence. Some theories propose that stories about his quest for immortality reflect early Chinese experiments with alchemy, metallurgy, and herbal medicine. He's also frequently associated with other mythical figures such as Yandi, or the Flame Emperor, who is sometimes even considered his brother. The two figures are said to represent opposing but complementary forces, with Huangdi embodying stability and order, and Yandi embodying fiery passion and change. This duality has led to interpretations of Huangdi as representing balance and harmony in the cosmos. And of course, the stories of Huangdi's military campaigns, particularly his use of magical weapons and devices like the south-pointing chariot, contribute to his mystique. Some theorists speculate that these stories may hint at lost technological knowledge or early Chinese advancements in military engineering and strategy. And of course, Huangdi is often regarded as the common ancestor of all Han Chinese people, and this has significant political and cultural implications, linking the vast diversity of Chinese people to a single unified origin. Number 13, the Tower of Jericho. The Tower of Jericho, located in the ancient city of Jericho in the West Bank, is one of the oldest known stone structures in the entire world. Dating back to around 8000 BC, this Neolithic tower has confused so many people across the years. Its construction predates the pyramids of Egypt and Stonehenge by thousands of years and raises significant questions about the capabilities and motivations of early human societies. The Tower of Jericho stands approximately 28 feet high with a circular base of around 28 feet in diameter. It was constructed using undressed stone blocks and features an internal staircase with 22 steps leading to the top. The structure's thick walls and solid stone construction suggest a significant investment of labor and resources, indicating a high level of social organization and planning among the builders. And it is interesting to note that Jericho is one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world, located near the Jordan River. The tower itself is part of a larger prehistoric settlement that dates back to the pre-pottery Neolithic A period around 10,000 BC. The tower is adjacent to a stone wall, which some archaeologists believe served as a protective fortification for the early settlement. But with even the connection to the wall, the exact purpose of the Tower of Jericho remains debated. Theories range from it being a defensive structure to a storage facility, or even a religious or ceremonial monument. Its location facing west and the setting sun has led some to speculate that it may have held astronomical or calendrical significance, perhaps used to mark the summer solstice or other celestial events. So to just dive into some of the theories, one of the earliest theories about the tower's purpose is that it served as a defensive structure, possibly as part of a larger fortification system, protecting the settlement from invaders or even wild animals. However, the tower's placement and construction do not clearly align with this theory, as it seems impractically situated for strictly defensive purposes. Some scholars propose that the tower and the associated wall were built as a defense against flooding from the nearby Jordan River or other water sources. This theory suggests that the tower might have served as a lookout to spot rising waters or to coordinate efforts to protect the rest of the settlement. And like mentioned before, the tower's alignment with the setting sun has led to theories that it was used for astronomical observations or calendrical purposes. It could have served as a solar marker, helping inhabitants track the passage of time and seasons, which would have been crucial for agricultural planning. The construction of such a monument structure at a time when human societies were transitioning from nomadic hunter-gatherer lifestyles to settled agricultural communities may symbolize the consolidation of social or political power. It might have been built to demonstrate the leadership's power and control, or as a communal project to unify the settlement's inhabitants. Another theory states that the tower was built for religious or ceremonial purposes. It could have served as a platform for rituals or offerings to deities, reflecting early spiritual beliefs and practices. The effort involved in its construction suggests it held significant importance to the community, possibly as a sacred site. Some researchers have suggested that the tower might have been used as a granary or storage facility. Its thick walls and substantial construction would provide protection for stored goods, such as grains from the elements or pests. However, like the rest of the theories, there is little to no evidence of this theory. But regardless of what you think, it is fascinating to see that yet another structure suggests a level of social complexity and organization previously thought to have emerged much later in human history. Number 14, Mitochondrial Eve. This one I might have to get a little more backgroundy on, so just bear with me. So Mitochondrial Eve is a theoretical construct in genetics representing the most recent common matrilineal ancestor of all living humans. This means she is the woman from whom all humans alive today have inherited their mitochondrial DNA, passed down through the maternal line. Importantly, Mitochondrial Eve is not the only woman living at her time, nor the first human woman. She is simply the most recent woman from whom all humans share a direct, unbroken line of maternal descent. Okay, so unlike nuclear DNA, which is inherited from both parents, mtDNA is inherited exclusively from the mother. Mitochondria are cellular organelles that provide energy and have their own DNA, which is separate from the nuclear DNA in a cell's nucleus. mtDNA undergoes mutations over time, which can be traced back through the generations. By comparing mtDNA sequences from people around the world, scientists can reconstruct a genetic lineage and estimate the time to a common ancestor. So Mitochondrial Eve is estimated to have lived about 150 to 200,000 years ago in Africa during the Middle Paleolithic period. This time frame coincides with the emergence of anatomically modern Homo sapiens. Okay, and just to reiterate this point because it was so heavily emphasized in all of my research, Mitochondrial Eve was not the first human or the only human alive during her time. She was essentially part of a population of early humans, and her unique status as a common ancestor arises because her line of descendants survived to the present day without any interruptions in the maternal line. And this concept of Mitochondrial Eve is specific to the maternal line, meaning all humans share her as a common ancestor through their mothers. This is a corresponding concept for the paternal line known as the Y chromosomal atom, who represents the most recent common ancestor from whom all modern Y chromosomes are derived. Okay, so with all of that out of the way, mysteries and theories. The Mitochondrial Eve supports the out of Africa theory, which proposes that all modern humans originated from a single population in Africa before migrating to other parts of the world. This does contrast with the multi-regional hypothesis, which suggests that modern humans evolved simultaneously in different regions. Genetic evidence from Mitochondrial Eve supports a single origin point for modern humans, followed by a migration out of Africa and subsequent spread across the globe. And in all of my topics that I've covered, I don't think I've been as direct or concise on an answer. So I'm going to have to throw in a couple of wacky theories. So this one is so widely accepted that I kind of had to do some digging, and there's are going to be kind of your typical theories, but you got to add them regardless. So here we go. The first wacky theory about the Mitochondrial Eve is the alien ancestry theory. Some fringe theorists speculate that the Mitochondrial Eve was not entirely human, but a hybrid of early hominins and extraterrestrials. According to this theory, aliens visited Earth around 200,000 years ago and genetically modified or interbred with a small group of early humans, creating a new superior lineage that eventually led to modern humans. These aliens supposedly chose one woman, Mitochondrial Eve, to carry their advanced DNA, which was then passed down through her generations. Another theory states that the Mitochondrial Eve was a time traveler from the future. Proponents of this idea argue that she was sent back in time by a future civilization to ensure the survival and evolution of the human species. This theory suggests that Eve possessed knowledge and abilities beyond those of her contemporaries, which allowed her lineage to dominate and survive through natural selection. There's also the Garden of Eden simulation hypothesis, which never thought I'd read that sentence. This theory combines elements of the simulation hypothesis with biblical allegory. It proposes that the Mitochondrial Eve was a construct within a vast simulated environment created by advanced beings or future humans. In this Garden of Eden scenario, Eve was the central figure in a controlled experiment to observe human evolution. The goal was to monitor how humans would develop morally, socially, and technologically when given free will. The discovery of Mitochondrial Eve's genetic legacy is considered a glitch in the simulation that offers a clue to the true nature of our reality. And I think I'm just going to backtrack here a little bit because I find the science behind this a lot more fascinating than the random theories. So I'm just going to continue rambling about some of this. So the rate at which mutations occur in mtDNA is a key factor in estimating the time to Mitochondrial Eve. If the mutation rate is slower or faster than currently understood, it could affect the estimated age of Mitochondrial Eve. The mutation rate itself can be influenced by several factors, including environmental pressures and population sizes, which does give you that kind of range that we talked about earlier. And for me, at least, it was kind of hard to kind of wrap my head around how one person could share DNA with everybody. But this all kind of leads back to the idea of population bottlenecks. A population bottleneck occurs when a significant portion of a population is wiped out, leaving only a few survivors to repopulate. These survivors' genetic material, including mtDNA, becomes more prevalent in the gene pool, potentially leading to a situation where all living humans can trace their mtDNA back to a single woman. And while Mitochondrial Eve is the most recent common ancestor for the maternal line, she coexisted with many other women whose descendants are also alive today, albeit through different lines of descent. Other ancestral women may have descendants today, but not through an unbroken maternal line, making them less prominent in the context of mtDNA inheritance. Okay, so with all that being said, I found this topic extremely fascinating. So just had to kind of get into the nitty gritty with y'all and share some of that stuff. But moving on. Number 15, Shahr-e Sukhteh. Shahr-e Sukhteh, or the Burnt City, is an archaeological site located in the southeastern portion of Iran on the banks of the Helmand River near the Afghanistan border. Dating back to around 3200 BC, this ancient city flourished during the Bronze Age and is known for its sophisticated urban planning, unique artifacts, and just history in general. The city's name derives from the evidence suggesting it was destroyed by fire multiple times throughout its history, leading to its abandonment around 1800 BC. Shahr-e Sukhteh covers an area approximately 370 acres, making it one of the largest Bronze Age sites in Iran. The city was meticulously planned with distinct residential, commercial, and industrial areas. The site includes a well-organized network of streets, houses, workshops, and even public buildings. There is evidence of an advanced urban infrastructure, such as an extensive drainage system, demonstrating a high level of civic planning and engineering. Numerous artifacts have been discovered at Shahr-e Sukhteh, including pottery, jewelry, tools, and textiles. The city is particularly famous for a unique board game set, believed to be one of the oldest in the world, and a prosthetic eye made of tar and animal fat, possibly used for cosmetic or medical purposes. Evidence of advanced craftsmanship is apparent in items like intricate stone vessels, copper objects, and finely woven textiles. These artifacts suggest a highly skilled population and engaged in various crafts and trade. Alongside these artifacts, archaeologists have also unearthed a significant number of graves at Shahr-e Sukhteh, providing insight into the city's social structure and cultural practices. Some burials show evidence of elaborate funerary rites, including the placement of grave goods and personal belongings with the deceased. A well-known discovery is the remains of a young woman with an artificial eye in skull surgery, indicating early forms of medical intervention or symbolic practices. So, like I mentioned before, the city's name, the Burnt City, reflects the multiple layers of ash and burnt remains found at the site. It is believed that the city was destroyed by fire on at least 3 occasions, which eventually led to its abandonment around 1800 BC. So some of the main mysteries surrounding Shahr-e Sukhteh is essentially why it was burnt so many times, and then essentially the decline of the civilization after the burnings. Some theories suggest accidental fires due to dense urban construction and the use of flammable materials. Others speculate that invasions or internal conflicts might have caused these fires as well. Another theory states that natural disasters such as earthquakes combined with fire could have contributed to the city's repeated devastation. Along with the fires, the actual origins of the people who built and inhabited Shahr-e Sukhteh remain unclear. The city's advanced culture seems to have developed independently with limited evidence of external influence. Its sudden decline and abandonment around 1800 BC also remain a subject of speculation. Some suggest environmental changes such as shifts in river courses or drought may have led to a decline in agriculture and trade, prompting the population to abandon the city. So with that being said, some of the fringe theories suggest that advanced technology and unique artifacts found at Shahr-e Sukhteh, such as the artificial eye and the possible surgical tools, do indicate contact with extraterrestrial beings or highly advanced civilizations that were more advanced in the time. The classic spiel, so we'll leave it there. But one of the wilder theories that I found, which was actually only on one webpage, states that Shahr-e Sukhteh could be the remnant of the lost civilization of Atlantis, or like a satellite city of Atlantis or something like that. I didn't really understand the article I was reading, so yeah. But I think the whole gist was that the repeated destruction by fire and the city's ultimate abandonment might have tied to catastrophic events described in some of the ancient legends we have discussed previously. One theory that I found that was a little less covered, but still I think pretty fascinating, is that the burning actually had some kind of influence with the secret cult practices. Some speculate that the repeated fires were the result of ritualistic cleansing practices by a secret cult that worshipped fire or saw it as a purifying force. According to this theory, since we don't know much about the inhabitants' cultural or religious practices, the city's inhabitants might have been involved in esoteric practices that required the periodic burning of the city to renew spiritual or cosmic energies. And then, of course, you also have the interdimensional portal theory, which suggests that Shahr-e Sukhteh was built on a site believed to be a gateway or a portal to other dimensions, and the fires were an attempt to open or close the portal. So, yeah. Regardless of what actually caused the fires, it still is fascinating to look at Shahr-e Sukhteh because it does provide a critical understanding to the development of urban life in these early human societies. Number 16, Urim and Thummim. The Urim and Thummim are these objects mentioned in the Hebrew Bible associated with the Israelite high priest's breastplate. They were used for divination or seeking divine guidance, particularly on matters of state and significant decisions. Despite their frequent mention in biblical text, the exact nature, appearance, and function of the Urim and Thummim remain kind of a mystery, with these various interpretations and theories that have sprouted from it. The Urim and Thummim are primarily mentioned in the Old Testament, specifically in the books like Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy 1, 1 Samuel, and Ezra. They are described as instruments through which the high priest could communicate with God and determine his will. The earliest mention is in Exodus chapter 28, verse 30, where they are placed in the high priest's breastplate of judgment. The text does not provide a clear description of their appearance, leaving a lot to interpretation. Like I mentioned before, the Urim and Thummim were used for divination, helping leaders make decisions on warfare, leadership, and other specific matters. The high priest would consult them, kind of like an oracle, to obtain a yes or a no answer from God. They were likely used in a ritualistic context where the priest would ask a question and then receive a response through these objects, though the precise mechanics of how this kind of worked and played out are still unknown. Also, the exact meanings of Urim and Thummim is uncertain, but they often get translated as lights and perfections or revelation and truth. This ambiguity adds to the mystery surrounding their function and significance because the meaning of the names don't actually provide any insight within themselves. Some scholars suggest that the names reflect their function. Urim, lights, could indicate revealing or clarifying, while Thummim, perfections, could signify completeness or decisiveness. But even then, I'm not seeing it. The high priest's actual breastplate, also known as the breastplate of judgment, contained 12 stones representing the 12 tribes of Israel. The Urim and Thummim were either kept within a pouch of this breastplate or sewn into it, symbolizing their role in divine judgment and decision-making. So, if you can kind of already guess, the mystery here lies within the physical description, their composition, the method in which they were used, and if they existed at all. The Urim and Thummim's physical appearance is not described in the biblical texts, leading to various theories. Some suggest they were stones or lots, possibly similar to casting dice. Others believe that they were engraved objects, perhaps similar to gemstones or oracular devices. Another theory states that they were part of a larger contraption or device, essentially used by the high priest for divine communication, but other than that, we don't really know. The method in which they were used is still unclear. Like I said, they could be like casting dice, or arranged to fall on some sort of yes or no indication. Others propose that the stones would light up or change color to signal the divine answer. And another theory is that they worked through a more mystical or spiritual process where the high priest would receive divine intuition or a vision, kind of similar to like the oracle that we discussed. And the actual fate of the Urim and Thummim remains unknown after the destruction of the first temple in Jerusalem in 586 BC by the Babylonians. There are no further references to their use in the biblical texts. Some believe they were lost during the Babylonian exile or were hidden to prevent desecration. Jewish tradition and later writings suggest that the Urim and Thummim were never a part of the Second Temple, which does raise questions about their disappearance or their just complete destruction. It is also important to look at this in terms of the Near Eastern divination practices and kind of look at their similarities. It does in fact bear similarities because a lot of other Near Eastern divination practices show the use of lots, casting bones, or reading animal entrails. They could be seen as part of a broader tradition of seeking divine guidance through ritualistic objects. Some scholars do suggest that the objects may have originated from earlier Canaanite or Mesopotamian divination practices, adapted by the Israelites in their specific religious framework. And then some modern interpretations also argue that the Urim and Thummim were not physical objects, but metaphorical or symbolic tools representing divine truth and guidance. And according to this view, the high priest's breastplate symbolized the divine presence of wisdom rather than being a literal device for receiving answers. Number 17, the Cynocephaly. The Cynocephaly, or the dog-headed people, are essentially a mythical race described in various historical texts, folklore, and legends across multiple cultures. These beings are characterized by their human bodies and dog-like heads, often portrayed with a range of attributes from barbaric warriors to wise mystical beings. These beings are characterized by their human bodies and dog-like heads, often portrayed with a range of attributes from barbaric warriors to wise mystical beings. The concept of the Cynocephaly has persisted throughout history, appearing in Greek, Roman, Indian, and even medieval European texts, blending myth, history, and speculation over the wide course of history. Greek and Roman writers like Herodotus and Pliny the Elder wrote about the Cynocephaly in their accounts of distant lands. Herodotus, our favorite historian, mentioned them as inhabitants of the region around Libya, while Ctesias described them as living in India, and Pliny the Elder elaborating on their supposed behavior and lifestyle. According to these accounts, Cynocephaly were often depicted as fierce warriors or barbaric tribes who communicated through barking or other non-human sounds. They were also noted for their strength, hunting skills, and sometimes even their intelligence. The concept of Cynocephaly was widely circulated in medieval Europe through religious texts and explorers' reports. Christian writers such as St. Augustine discussed the Cynocephaly in the concept of theological debates on the nature of humanity and salvation, pondering whether these beings, if they existed, possessed souls. The Alexander Romance, a medieval collection of legends about Alexander the Great, described encounters with the Cynocephaly in his conquests in India. These texts often portrayed them as both a fearsome other and a subject of curiosity and speculation. Indian texts, including the Mahabharata and accounts by ancient Indian scholars, also mention the existence of dog-headed tribes in remote areas. Some descriptions suggest that the Cynocephaly were more mystical beings with access to secret knowledge or even spiritual power. In Chinese texts, the Cynocephaly were sometimes described in accounts of distant lands, usually along the western frontier or in more mythical kingdoms, further cementing their status as beings from the edge of the known world. And even the Venetian explorer Marco Polo described encountering Cynocephaly during his travels in the East. In his travels, he reported seeing dog-headed men on the Andaman Islands, reinforcing this European belief that these beings are real, albeit distant, but they're still inhabitants of the world. Some scholars suggest that the Cynocephaly might be symbolic representations rather than literal beings. They could symbolize the fear of the unknown, representing distant, foreign tribes seen as other due to their different languages, customs, and appearances. They may also represent human fears and misunderstandings of those who were culturally or geographically distant. The concept of Cynocephaly could have emerged from exaggerated descriptions of unfamiliar peoples, particularly those who wore animal masks or had distinct rituals and customs. A common theory is that the Cynocephaly were based on early encounters with tribes or groups who used animal symbolism, possibly wearing animal heads or engaging in shamanistic practices involving animal transformations. Some suggest that the Cynocephaly accounts were the result of misinterpretations or even exaggerations by explorers or traders who encountered foreign customs. Another theory states that sightings of possibly just baboons or other primates, especially in North Africa or India, might have led to stories of humanoid creatures with canine features. The Cynocephaly also appear in Christian theological discussions, where their ambiguous status raises questions about the nature of humanity and redemption. Some theologians, such as St. Augustine, debated whether the Cynocephaly, if real, were human enough to be saved by Christ's sacrifice, indicating their importance in medieval religious thought. In some religious texts, the Cynocephaly are portrayed as having been converted to Christianity, adding kind of this weird other layer of complexity to their depiction as both monstrous and capable of redemption. Some modern interpretations suggest that accounts of Cynocephaly might have been influenced by medical conditions or genetic mutations that result in facial deformities, causing individuals to resemble more canine-like features. And other theories state that ancient observers could have mistaken certain congenital disabilities or injuries as evidence of hybrid beings, leading to the creation of myths about the Cynocephaly. There are some theories that I found, like the alien hybrid theory, which suggests that they were extraterrestrial human hybrids created through ancient genetic experiments. Or there's the interdimensional beings, which they're not from our physical world, but some alternate dimension. According to this theory, they occasionally crossed over into our realm, which explains their sporadic appearances in historical records and their mysterious behavior. Another unusual theory I found was the werewolf ancestry theory, which suggests that the Cynocephaly were early ancestors of werewolves. It argues that the legends of dog-headed men are based on sightings of a precursor race to modern werewolves who were eventually driven to extinction or interbred with humans to create the creatures of this specific myth. And then some believe that the Cynocephaly were spiritual guardians or protectors of sacred or forbidden knowledge. Their role as guardians of secrets or mysteries could explain their frequent portrayal as both fearsome and wise, serving as gatekeepers between the mundane and the mystical. With all that being said, I think it is really cool to see how, just like the flood myth, this myth kind of persists across cultures and across generations. Number 18, the Huashan Caves. The Huashan Caves, also known as the Huashan Mystery Caves, are a series of artificial caves located in Huashan, a region in the eastern Chinese province of Anhui. Discovered in 1999, these caves have puzzled archaeologists and historians due to their immense size, advanced construction techniques, and the lack of traditional historical records. Dating estimates for the caves vary widely, but they are generally believed to have been constructed over 1700 years ago during the Eastern Han Dynasty or earlier. The purpose, builders, and methods of construction for the Huashan Caves remain unknown, making them one of China's greatest archaeological enigmas. So, to give you a breakdown, the Huashan Caves consist of 36 separate caverns, with the largest, cave number 35, spanning an area over 129,000 square feet and reaching a height of up to 98 feet. The total area of all the caves is estimated to be around 540,000 square feet. The caves are carved directly into granite bedrock, featuring smooth, polished walls, regular columns, and intricate geometric patterns. Some walls have a distinctive chisel pattern, suggesting the use of advanced stone cutting tools. The precision and scale of the construction indicate a high level of engineering and architectural skill. The caves contain perfectly carved support pillars, symmetrical arches, and large flat surfaces, which would have required extensive planning and labor. Evidence of drainage systems, ventilation shafts, and channels suggest the builders understood complex civil engineering principles to prevent flooding and maintain air circulation within the caves. Despite their complexity and the effort required to create them, there are no known historical records or writings about the Huashan Caves in ancient Chinese texts. This absence of documentation, definitely very odd, has, as you can imagine, led to significant speculation about their origins and purpose. Few artifacts have ever been found within the cave, and there's little evidence to suggest that they were used as living spaces or for storage. Some pottery shards and simple tools have been discovered, but their connection to the construction or the use of the caves remain unclear. So obviously the most significant mystery surrounding the Huashan Caves is their intended purpose. Some believe that their caves were constructed as a military installation or fortress, possibly used for shelter, storage, or as a hideout during times of war. However, the lack of defensive features and historical references make this theory extremely questionable. Others suggest the caves were used for religious or ceremonial purposes, possibly by a secretive cult or religious group. The cave's size and layout could have accommodated large gatherings or rituals, but again, no religious artifacts have been found to support this theory. Another theory states that the caves were intended as an underground city, built to protect against invasions or natural disasters, but there is no evidence of permanent habitation, such as fireplaces or waste disposal areas. And then some speculate that the caves were part of a large-scale mining operation, possibly for valuable minerals or stones. However, there is no evidence of valuable minerals, and the labor-intensive construction seems to be disproportionate to any known mining effort. The cave's construction would have required an enormous workforce, advanced tools, and sophisticated engineering knowledge. The sheer volume of stone removed and the precision of the work suggest a well-organized and highly skilled team. Their labor and resources needed for such a massive project raises questions about the social and political organization of the builders. Were they commissioned by a powerful ruler, a wealthy individual, or a religious organization? We just don't know. And the precise dating of the caves is difficult due to the lack of organic material for radiocarbon dating and the absence of specific historical records. Some scholars suggest they date back to the Eastern Han Dynasty between 25 and 220 AD, while others propose much older or younger origins based on the style of construction and available artifacts. The Huashan Caves have been compared to other ancient underground complexes around the world, such as the rock-cut churches of Lalibela in Ethiopia or the caves of the Cappadocia in Turkey. However, the purpose and context of these sites are better understood, and it does make the direct comparisons kind of challenging. And to get away from the interdimensional portal and aliens and advanced technology theories, I found two theories that I thought that I would share. Some believe that the caves were created as a secret vault to store vast treasures, valuable artifacts, or knowledge from an ancient empire, and the lack of significant artifacts found so far is seen as evidence as the treasures being removed, or there are hidden and undiscovered chambers within the complex. Another theory that I thought was interesting suggests that the caves were part of an ancient energy grid or generator built to harness Earth's natural energy, kind of similar to the Egyptian electrical pyramid theory that I keep seeing all over my social medias for some reason. But the cave's precise construction and positioning are thought to align with the ley lines or geomagnetic fields, allowing them to tap into and distribute energy. But until we know more and find any artifacts of anything, at this point it's all just kind of guesses. Number 19, the Noah skeleton. The Noah skeleton refers to a set of human remains discovered in a cave in the northeastern region of Iran near the Caspian Sea. Unearthed in the early 2000s, the skeleton was nicknamed Noah due to its remarkable state of preservation and the mysterious circumstances surrounding its burial. Some researchers believe the skeleton may provide evidence of a catastrophic flood, similar to the biblical story of Noah's Ark, while others see it as an intriguing case of ancient human burial practices. Obviously, this discovery has sparked significant debate among archaeologists, historians, and theologians. So, the skeleton was found in a cave near the Elburz Mountains in Iran, a region known for its rich archaeological heritage. The cave was previously unexplored, and the discovery was made during a routine survey by a team of archaeologists from the Iranian Cultural Heritage Organization. The cave is situated near the Caspian Sea, an area that has long been associated with ancient human settlements and has numerous legends of great floods and ancient disasters. The Noah skeleton is noted for its exceptional preservation, which has allowed researchers to gather a wealth of information about the individual. The bones are well preserved with minimal damage or signs of decay. The skeleton was found lying on its back in a fetal position, surrounded by pottery shards and other artifacts, suggesting a deliberate burial. This positioning, combined with the surrounding artifacts, indicates that the individual was buried with care and possibly with some form of ritual significance. Radiocarbon dating suggests the skeleton is around 5,500 to 6,000 years old, placing it in the Neolithic period. This timeframe aligns with other significant archaeological finds in the region and is contemporary with other early human settlements around the Caspian Sea. The dating also coincides with geological evidence suggesting a period of intense flooding in the region around 5,000 to 6,000 years ago, adding to the speculation that the individual may have lived during a significant flood event. Alongside the skeleton, several artifacts were found, including pottery, tools, and decorative items. These artifacts suggest the individual was part of a settled, possibly agrarian community with access to various resources and trade networks. The pottery and tools found near the skeleton are characteristic of early Neolithic cultures in the region, indicating a relatively advanced society with established cultural and technological practices. So the exact cause of death for the Noah skeleton remains unknown. There are no obvious signs of trauma or disease visible on the bones, leading some researchers to speculate that the individual may have died due to natural causes or in a flood-related event. The careful positioning and burial artifacts suggest the individual was of some importance to their community. The fetal position, often associated with rebirth or the afterlife in various ancient cultures, indicates a possible belief in an afterlife or spiritual journey. But one of the most intriguing aspects of the Noah skeleton is its potential connection to a great flood event. Geological surveys around the Caspian Sea have found evidence of significant flooding around 5,000 to 6,000 years ago, possibly caused by rising sea levels or a sudden influx of water. Some researchers suggest that the Noah skeleton could be evidence of a survivor or victim of this catastrophic event, drawing parallels to flood myths such as the biblical story of Noah's Ark or the Mesopotamian Epic of Gilgamesh. The discovery has prompted discussions about possible cultural or religious connections between the Noah skeleton and ancient flood myths. The name Noah was given to the skeleton not only because of its location and age, but also because of the possible symbolic association with the flood legends. If the skeleton is connected to a flood event, it could provide insights on how ancient cultures perceived and mythologized natural disasters, using them as foundational stories to explain human existence and divine will. And just to go along with the biblical great flood kind of theories, one theory states that the Noah skeleton was planted in the cave to fulfill a biblical prophecy about discovering evidence of the great flood. According to this idea, the skeleton was placed here by some divine or supernatural force as a sign of the accuracy of ancient religious texts. So take that as you will, but moving on. Number 20, the Veil of Veronica. The Veil of Veronica, also known as the Sudarium or True Image, is one of the most revered relics in Christian tradition. According to legend, the veil bears the miraculous image of the face of Jesus Christ. The story holds that Saint Veronica offered her veil to Jesus to wipe his face as he carried the cross to his crucifixion, and in return, his likeness was miraculously imprinted on the cloth. This relic has been a subject of intense devotion, speculation, and controversy throughout history, with numerous claims about its authenticity and its whereabouts. The Veil of Veronica is not mentioned in the canonical Gospels of the New Testament, and the story of Veronica appears in apocryphal writings and Christian tradition, particularly in the medieval period, which we do know did have a lot of forgeries and stories that aren't canonical to Christian religion. According to these accounts, Veronica was a pious woman who, moved by compassion, stepped forward from the crowd to wipe the sweat and blood from Jesus' face as he made his way to Calvary. Miraculously, the image of Jesus' face was transferred onto the cloth, creating the true image or Vera icon. The Veil of Veronica is typically described as a rectangular piece of cloth, often portrayed as a white or off-white linen. The image on the veil is said to be a faint yet detailed imprint of Jesus' face, displaying expressions of suffering, serenity, and compassion. Artistic representations of the veil have varied over the centuries, often reflecting the stylistic preferences of different periods and regions. The veil's image is usually depicted as frontal, with a bearded Jesus gazing directly at the viewer. The Veil of Veronica became one of the most revered relics in medieval Christianity. It was believed to have miraculous healing powers and to provide a direct physical connection to Jesus Christ. Pilgrims flocked to view the veil, particularly in Rome, where it was reportedly housed in St. Peter's Basilica. It became a focal point of devotion, especially during the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. Several churches and locations claim to possess the true Veil of Veronica, leading to confusion and controversy over its authenticity. The most prominent claim is by St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican City, although the veil has not been publicly displayed since the 17th century. Other claimants include the Monastery of the Holy Face in Spain, the Capuchin Monastery in Italy, and several other churches across Europe. Each site presents its version of the veil as the original or an authentic copy. So the central mystery surrounding the Veil of Veronica is whether it is a genuine relic bearing the face of Jesus Christ or a later medieval creation. The lack of direct biblical reference and reliance on later apocryphal texts casts doubt on its authenticity. Skeptics argue that the veil is a pious forgery created to inspire faith and devotion among believers. They point to the proliferation of copies and relics during the Middle Ages, often driven by the lucrative nature of relic veneration and pilgrimage. The earliest references to the Veil of Veronica date back to the 4th and 5th centuries, although detailed descriptions and widespread veneration began in the 11th and 12th centuries. The sudden emergence of the veil's story in this period raises questions about its origins and the motivations behind its promotion as a relic. Some theories suggest the veil may have originated from earlier traditions and compares it to the Mandylion of Edessa or the Shroud of Turin, with which this is actually sometimes confused. Believers maintain that the image on the veil is a miraculous imprint formed by divine intervention and bearing unique characteristics that distinguish it from human-created artworks. They cite the delicate, ethereal nature of the image and its reputed healing properties as evidence. Critics, however, argue that the image could have been painted or otherwise crafted using contemporary artistic techniques. Some suggest that the veil may have been produced using earlier forms of contact printing or rubbing. But regardless of its authenticity, the Veil of Veronica remains a powerful symbol of faith for many Christians. It represents the compassionate act of Veronica and serves as a tangible reminder of Jesus' suffering and humanity. So regardless of its authenticity, I think it's a fascinating story and definitely deserves to be on this list. But that wraps up today's episode. Thank you all if you've made it this far. I really do appreciate it. I know it's been a little while since I've posted a video, but I am back and hopefully planning on releasing more videos soon. I've got a lot of research done. I've got a lot of scripts written. It's just a matter of sitting down, recording, and then editing. Thank you so much to my patrons. I really do appreciate you sticking around. It does make me able to make these videos, which I truly enjoy. So Liz Heflin, thank you. G Donut, Ethan Wright, Jacob Ziegler, Dr. Swag, Brennan Smith, Christian Samuel, Jeffers Morning, Dhruv Singhal, Adam Surgener, Aliens Built Everything, Dates and Dead Guys, Patrick, and Bean Fart and Ganja Girl. Thank you, everybody, especially those who stick around. I appreciate you watching. We'll see you in the next video.